so we will see a lot of data all at once in these slides. So we do data science and research. Tom Gennari from BB Media. I am the CEO of the company. And before I start, because we will see a lot of data in just 10 minutes, I'll just throw a question to the audience. Does anyone know how many streaming services exist globally? Any clue? Any random guess? 2,700. Okay, that's a number. Anyone else? 2701. Okay, that's a bit closer. So again, sorry, this is a lot of data. If you look at the right, at the middle top of the slide, we are currently monitoring 63,000 streaming services globally. Now, this is a huge number, and we do this at a global scale across 250 countries and territories. Okay, this is a huge number. Out of which, Netflix is one of them and is present in 200 different countries. Same goes from Prime Video, but we take those into account as separate streaming services because there is a content acquisition team that is licensing the content for every single one of those countries separately. And there is, when it's an AVOD, there are opportunities for advertisers and ad agencies for every single one of those markets. So we do consider them to be different streaming services because they offer different things in terms of content, in terms of monetization opportunities. In general, we are talking about 1,000 unique streaming services available globally. Now, when we look at these numbers, and now looking at the left side, what are the business models of these streaming services? Well, 83% of them have at least one subscription-based model. And then we have, coming up next, 34% of them have an AVOD business model. Now, of course, they overlap because you can get a combination of those different business models. Of course, you do. So we have a combination of all of them. But when we look at this, at the huge numbers of how many streaming services have linear channels, have fast channels, and how many have AVOD as a business model, we are looking at, and this is on the right top corner, we have 26,000 OTT streaming services with AVOD as a business model. Now, my mission here in today's presentation is to bring you some global numbers on how huge the opportunity is and how important it is as well, and thank you for the OTT.X for making the X front happen, because we need this. As an industry, we desperately need this same event happening on every region in every country because there are a lot of opportunities and we need to educate the entire ecosystem. Now, when we look at specifically at the US, we are currently monitoring 256 streaming services, out of which 40% of them already have AVOD and fast capabilities and have, the opportunity to place ads. Now, again, we have seen today many streaming services presenting what they have, what they offer, but there are way more than that. We are talking about 2,200 streamed channels nowadays, many of which are already fast because it's no longer like traditional advertising. And 32% are like this, like 24/7, the same title with different episodes. And we are monitoring all of this in real time. That is what we do. Now, when we look at global numbers, this is huge. We're talking about 5,000 live streamed channels and almost 3,000 fast channels already available worldwide. Now, in the biggest AVOD and fast players, in average, they do have around 50 fast channels available, while the biggest ones like Distro TV and Plex and Pluto, Roku channel have around maybe 400 different channels. So what we started doing is monitoring all of their programming. I will get that into a minute with a couple of examples. Now, I wanted also to share how big the AVOD opportunity is, try to measure how big the audience is getting in the US, where the numbers are starting to shape up really well, real good. So we're talking about, these are estimations of $4 billion for 2023 on fast and way above $20 billion for AVOD in general. So these are like 2023 numbers, and they will continue to grow close to exponentially. So this is very good. When we look at the AVOD business model penetration in the US, we are now looking at 73% adoption. Okay, with Roku channel, YouTube, and Pluto, we have some big names in there, and that is a huge penetration. Now, these numbers and advertisers are following this trend, putting their ad dollars on these streaming services. But one thing that we have to take into account, and this is like very counterintuitive, we do data, and usually I would think that people prefer watching on demand instead of just like, a laid back situation where they just select a channel where things are streamed and like pre-scheduled. But when we ask the panelists that we have if they prefer watching content on demand or if they prefer watching linear channel, we do see, and that is the, let's call it salmon color, with 35% of people saying, yeah, I prefer watching content in a linear way and not so much on demand, which would be a more intuitive response. But yeah, on demand is preferred by 47% of the respondents. But when we look at this in a global survey that we do, what do we find? Well, the thing is, in the US, with the previous numbers I've shown, the ad dollars are starting to flow in. Now the rest of the world, not so much. But the good news is, when we see AVOD penetration across EMEA, APAC, and Latin America, we have like a 60% in EMEA AVOD penetration, 67% in LATAM, and a bit lower. APAC has always had a culture of free television, so it's different there. So we have a 40% penetration of AVOD in APAC. Now, even though the numbers are not that different to what we find in the US, we don't see the ad dollars flowing in. And that is what we need to work on. We need to educate the market, because in those markets, we still have, as I've shown previously, we have thousands of AVOD platforms and fast channels popping up every single month. So we need to do our work in educating those regions, those countries, and hopefully events like this one will help us achieve that. One other thing where we need to be more transparent and start sharing data so that we can educate the market is in terms of the relationship between the streaming services and the distributors and the end IP owners, the title owners. So I mentioned before that we started monitoring what titles are being scheduled in all the fast channels available. And this is what we found. This is some data coming out of Pluto TV, and this is just one example. We are monitoring every fast channel in the US already, and this is what we found. So during one single month, we had 55,000 different assets being aired on Pluto across 366 channels. Now, it's a lot, it's huge, yeah. So there is a 24/7 Naruto channel, actually two of them, one in Spanish, one in English. And of course, Naruto had 900 and something runs throughout the entire month. Now, it doesn't matter who owns that IP. That's, a lot of programming for just one single show. But when you own a smaller IP, like Tekken, an action movie from 2011, that movie got 4 runs throughout that entire month at 11 a.m., 5 a.m., 10 p.m., and 2:30 p.m. Now, that is 4 runs, okay? Does the IP owner know about this? Does the content distributor know about this? Well, Pluto actually shares a lot of data when it comes to what is being aired, but many streaming services are not sharing that much data. So maybe a smaller content owner, like the owners of Fatal Flip, a movie, it's a thriller, got just 1 run on the Pluto suspense channel at 5:30 in the morning. Now this is real data, okay? Now I will just show some made-up data to prove a point. Imagine that the month ends and each one of these IP owners gets their share. So Fatal Flip got $5 out of that 1 run, again, made up data, and Tekken got $40 out of that those 4 runs. Now the IP owners, they need to know, and again, many different conferences, we still hear that content is king. Well, the entire ecosystem depends on these IP owners and on these titles being distributed and getting their share. But we need to inform them on how they're performing. We need to show them their share, but also, your title was aired this many times in these fast channels. And that is where we are seeing that we still have some work to do. And, as an example to complete this, imagine that you are the owners of Tekken, this 2011 movie, and you have your title on 4 different streaming services, and you get your share from every single one of those. Now, we need to know how many times that title was aired in order to understand what's the value of that title. Because depending on how many times it was run, at what time of the day, which day parts, that really depends on how well it's performing, what my revenue share is, and then I know the value so that I can sell it to other streaming services. Things get even more complicated when we have a middleman, so-called distributor, that a lot of information is not flowing in, and we are monitoring all of these channels, all their programming, and we know that this is a place where we need to improve. So again, happy to be a part of this job that is being done by the OTT.X and the X fronts, because we do know that data is really important. We see that AVOD and FAST are the future, but in order for that to be the future, we really need to educate the market, and hopefully we can also help in that part of the business. So always glad to make new friends. If you scan the QR code, I will gladly share this presentation with you and all of the data that we used to build this huge database of every streaming service and fast channel in existence. Once again, thank you very much, OTT.X, Jose, Eric, and team. Thank you very much.